Today, we are talking about business, breakthroughs, and boundaries. I've abbreviated on this whiteboard. I would love for this to be an open discussion surrounding your breakthroughs and boundaries that you may have put into place in your business. And I'm sure that your boundaries probably came way too late. If you could do it all over again, you'd probably set boundaries from the start. And maybe your breakthroughs are just not celebrated as often as you would hope for them to be celebrated. And I'm saying celebrated even when your breakthrough might be a negative thing, when you're like coming to this realization that's something you've been doing incorrectly or something that you've been doing that hasn't been aligned to your core values and beliefs for a while. That's still a breakthrough. That should be celebrated, because when you come to that realization and you acknowledge the fact that maybe you've been doing something wrong or out of alignment or against your moral values or beliefs, it's something that is going to enhance your business. It's going to enhance your personal character. It's going to enhance your charisma and move yourself and your business forward. So it should be celebrated. Now, I've been through boundaries, and I've come to realizations that I need boundaries when I didn't have them, and I don't think they ever really go away. You're always adding boundaries to your business as you go. So that's why I can talk about this. I've transitioned a lot in my business. I will talk to you about this whiteboard. Maybe I'll just start here with the timeline on this whiteboard. Because I think it's important for you to understand where I've come from and when I've experienced these boundaries. Now, you might not be able to see this whiteboard very well, but for me, let's say, the very beginning of this whiteboard here, the very first touch point says, do as society says. And for me, I did that. I went to high school, I graduated high school, I went to college, and I got a degree in criminal justice with a minor in psychology. I graduated with my degree in criminal justice, and I became a paralegal because I had a degree in criminal justice. So my path in my head and in society's, the way that society portrays this to us, my path was already written for me. It was predetermined when I made the decision to go to school for criminal justice. It was predetermined that I was going to become a paralegal. Now, I grew up in a high school where everybody was going to school to become doctors, and they were, going to mimic what their parents were doing. And my upbringing was a little bit different because my dad owned his own business. So my dad was actually an entrepreneur. My mom stayed home with the family. So at school, I was hearing, stay the path, go to college. My parents didn't go to college, but at school, that was really pressed upon me. So it was pressed upon me by society, and I thought I needed to fit in. And in order to fit in, that meant I needed to follow the path that most of my peers were taking. Okay, so this very first step here in this timeline was me doing as society told me to do, going to school, getting a degree, and following the path that degree led me to, becoming a paralegal. For 6 years, I worked as a paralegal. So about 3 years into my paralegal career, I came up upon this part in the timeline where it was me realizing that I actually have an outside passion of some sort. And for me, it was wellness. It was health and wellness. I went to the gym a lot. I was a CrossFitter. I'm still a CrossFitter. But I would read up on nutrition books and nutrition textbooks for fun. And I would track my macronutrients, and I would do all these things to make sure that I'm in good health and I'm getting stronger, blah, 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 right? So I found out that I had this passion, and I realized this passion, but society told me that passion of mine was a side hustle, right? So you might be able to relate. Okay, so your comments are coming up on the computer. All right. Yeah, criminal justice was cool. Psychology was so cool. But it ended up not being what I loved to do. And I didn't love working for somebody else. I didn't love being told what to do day in and day out. I didn't love being told when I needed to clock in, when I needed to clock out, when to take lunch, when to pee, like essentially, right? Like when I can pee, when I need to hold the pee, I can't go yet. I didn't like that. And part of that may have come from my upbringing and my father being an entrepreneur and making his own schedule and me seeing him do that. But then the other part of me was going to school with people who were becoming doctors, and the question I would get asked anytime I went to visit a friend's house by their parents was, you know, what are you going to school for? What are you getting your degree in? What's your like corporate job title going to be? And that's what society told me to do. So I found out I had this passion about 3 years into my paralegal career. I ended up working as a paralegal for 6 years before I got out. So that's why I wrote this word time here, because this time period from when you realize you have a passion to the time where you actually take action on this passion, some people never ever get past that step. Some people never have that breakthrough. All right, so that's one of the key words we're talking about today: breakthroughs and boundaries in business. But you're never going to start a business. You're never going to have boundaries in business or a business, let alone, at all, unless you take action on this passion, okay? If I never took action on this passion of mine, I wouldn't be here today having this conversation with you. I wouldn't have my very first live event that I'm hosting in February, which is ironically titled BBB, Business Boundaries Breakthroughs. I wouldn't be hosting it. I wouldn't be following through on this passion of mine. So the time period right here is irrelevant, really, but what you got to do is just get to that other step here in this timeline. You need to take action on this passion, and that looks different for everybody. For me, it meant that I sat down with my husband and I said, look, do you really think I could make this wellness career work for me, and I could end up coming home from my 9-to-5 job and actually help support the family? Because that was important for me. I didn't want to just stay at home and continue to work on my side hustle. I wanted to be able to support the family. I'm a competitor, so I wanted to make more money than my husband and be challenged to do that. So it took me 3 years to actually take action on my passion. And here's what happened, because this is a breakthrough that happened for me in between, sorry, this is a mirrored image. So in between this little time frame part here on the timeline, my breakthrough was, so I sat down with my husband and we said 5 years, 5-year plan. That's what we've got. In 5 years, I'm going to leave my 9-to-5 job. I'm going to transition out, and I'm going to have built my personal business up by that point. And then the next week we found out we were pregnant. So my 5-year plan here, this timeline, turned into a 9-month plan. I was like, well, I want to be home with my daughter, so I got to do this in 9 months. So I had to take action much quicker than I thought I needed to take action. But that was a breakthrough. That was a breakthrough, a lesson that I learned that I carried with me throughout the rest of my journey, because it was a risk that I was willing to take in order to receive the reward of being home with my daughter when she was born. So if you have a reason behind every action that you want to take, you will be 10 times more likely to take action much quicker than you would if you do not have a reason behind it. So for instance, I'm hosting a live event in February and I have to put down a deposit on the event space. That's scary. And I don't have anybody coming to the event yet. So it's hard for me to put down all this money on my event space to hold the space when I don't even know if people are going to show up. So take action and make the reward greater than the risk, or if the risk is greater than the reward, you will take action. So pre-sell your tickets. Get some money in the bank first to cover the cost of the deposit for the event space. You can apply this to your business, but that's a breakthrough that I use day in and day out in my business when I'm making decisions, both in my business and in my personal life. I'm thinking ahead, and I'm thinking of how I can cover the costs of X before I even create the product or before I even create the service, okay? So for me, I had a 9-month time frame in order to match my corporate salary and be home with my daughter. All right, so that's where this comes in. And then once you choose to take action on your passion, then it becomes mindset. then you get in this headspace where you're afraid of failing. You're afraid of what other people are going to think or say about you. You're afraid of judgment. You've made a decision and now you need to follow through. You're afraid of not following through. So that's where it really starts to get in your headspace. So boundaries, in my opinion, should probably start back here, but we typically don't start thinking about boundaries until we're right around this place here in our timeline. And hopefully those of you who are watching this video will start thinking about boundaries before you start or right now, no matter where you are in your business, because it's so important to have boundaries set so that you understand this headspace that you're going to be in, so that you can predetermine the headspace and make the mindset adjustments before they happen, or figure out how you're going to adjust your mindset when they do happen and have a plan to do that, okay? So if you're ever getting in this negative, self-sabotage type talk, or you're talking down, you can catch it and you can readjust that mindset and stay the path. For me, and I wrote a chapter in a book on this, which you can actually grab the chapter for free from my website, JennaCorelli.com. For me, the very first time I vocalized that I was leaving my 9-to-5 job and I was going to stay home with my daughter and be an entrepreneur, the very first time I said this out loud in a 14-passenger van with my family in it, one of my family members very quickly responded with, "You will be a failure. You will never get married. No one will want to marry you because you won't be able to support the family. You'll never have kids, and if you do, you won't be able to support them." She said, "You would be a failure. Dreams are dreams. They're just that. They don't ever become reality, so they're not going to come true." And she even went as far as saying, "I have dreams of opening a bed and breakfast one day, but it's just a dream. It'll never happen." So this was kind of like boom, like shot to the face immediately when I finally built up the courage to say, "Hey, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Like, this is a passion of mine. This is a dream, and I'm pursuing it, and I'm making it happen." That's what was told to me. So my chapter in this book talks about how that completely changed me for about a year. I was this extrovert who became introverted, and every room I would walk into, I thought that everybody, all the heads in that room, were judging me and saying or thinking about the things that that person said to me on that day. And it kind of messed me up for quite a while. And it really messed with this headspace here in this timeline. It messed with my headspace. And I've had to take measures. I've had to put boundaries in place in order to get past that. And to this day, I still have the boundaries, and I have my ways of getting over that anxiety and that fear of judgment and that fear of being let down and fear of failure. So that's another example of me in my timeline here. When you're past this, you're in this headspace, you finally decided to become an entrepreneur, you're going through this fear of failure. Sorry, this mirror is making it hard for me to figure out where my finger needs to be. You have this fear of failure, all right? But you're doing it. You're taking action. You're past that part of taking action. You've already decided to take action. There's no turning back now. Like, you are in it to win it, and you're not stopping. You are acting as the CEO of your business, and you are running it full force, not like a side hustle, okay? You are a business owner. You are an entrepreneur. You are the CEO. You're just experiencing a little mindset issues, and you're needing to add some mindset adjustments along the way in order to keep moving forward. That's never going to stop. The next thing that I came up on is this concept of being a solopreneur versus hiring people, having a team behind you. For me, again, I thought I needed to be the only one that ran my business because I wanted to be the one that was successful. I didn't want to fail, and I didn't want others to think that I was asking for help in order to be successful. That was my mindset, right? And it went as far as, my husband is in the finance industry, and I wouldn't even let him balance my profit and loss statements because I was like, no, I need to do it. I'm the CEO, I'm the entrepreneur, I'm the solopreneur. That was a word I used, which I hate now, but that's where I was. I was basically working myself to the ground, having anxiety over everything, trying to do all the things myself. And what happened was it brought me out of fascinations. It brought me out of my fascinations, and I was doing a lot of things that irritated me, and I was doing a lot of things that I was just tolerating in my business, and I was just getting by day by day by day, like trying to force a sale just to make money and be positive at the end of the month. And being a solopreneur is really, 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 really hard. So boundaries need to be set. You need to, first of all, realize that you can and should ask for help immediately. And then you need to set boundaries for yourself. Right here, you can see, for yourself before you set boundaries for others. So many of us will set boundaries for others, like our clients, and we'll say, you can only contact us on Monday and Wednesday from 9 to 5. And that might be a boundary you set, or you put together an online scheduler, an online calendar, so that people can only schedule calls with you on a Wednesday, for example. Many of us break those boundaries, and we've got clients emailing us and messaging us, and we respond even on the weekend when we shouldn't. But at least putting those boundaries in place is a first step. It's always going to be a work in progress to actually adhere to the boundaries that you put forth for yourself. But being a solopreneur is exhausting. So the next breakthrough that I had was that I couldn't do it alone, and I needed to ask for help, and I needed to create a team that could work behind me, and the people on that team needed to all be working within their own fascinations. So my tech virtual assistant needs to love to do tech. She needs to love it. In 5 years from now, she still wants to be doing tech for me. Like, that's the only person I would want to hire for that job. My copywriter needs to love to write copy. Like, I'm not just going to pick up any old person in a large Facebook group who wants this job. I want somebody working within their own zone of genius who loves what they're doing, so that we're all working within our fascinations. So when I built my team, my team's number one priority was to keep me working within my fascination. So I would share with them what my boundaries are in my business, and these are the things I love to do in my business. And if I get this incredible realization in the shower and I tell you I want to act upon something immediately, if it is not in line with the things that fascinate me in my life and in my business, then you need to tell me to say no. So part of my team's job is to tell me no. Maybe not right now. Great idea, Jenna. Like, those shower inspirations that you have are just incredible, but let's put that on a back burner card in our project management system instead of acting upon it right now, because it's not in alignment with the things that you are fascinated by currently in your business. It's not aligned with your core values and beliefs at this time, but it could be later. Okay. So for me, this part in the timeline, I went from solopreneur to hiring 6 people right off the bat and creating a digital marketing agency. And I now have 12 people working for me. So what that did was it allowed me to continue to work within my fascinations. Now here I have passion shifts and transition, which I didn't tell you, but back when I left my 9-to-5 job, when I had my daughter, I actually was a health and wellness coach, an online wellness coach. I did live seminars offline, but I worked with people online one-on-one and also in group coaching format online in the wellness industry. But I had a passion. My passion shifted at that time when I had my daughter, and I felt like a fraud. I felt like a failure because I no longer really cared about helping other people improve their health and wellness. And I was afraid to tell people that for a while because I had just had my daughter and self-care wasn't really on my top priority to-do list. Just trying to keep a kid alive was on my to-do list at the time. So if I couldn't take care of myself, I did not have my cup filled enough to take care of other people and tell them how to take care of their health and wellness. So I fell out of that passion and I thought that I had failed, right? I had this fear of failure again. And it happens all the time, and I love working with clients who transition from one industry to another because we can go through all these breakthroughs that I've been through. So when that happened, when I had my daughter and I fell out of passion, I no longer coached in the wellness industry. I turned my wellness business passive. I automated my wellness business and I became a business coach. And eventually I turned that into business consulting with a digital marketing agency. And that's where I'm at today. And I'm slowly transitioning from consulting and agency work myself. I have a team who's running this part of my business, but I am transitioning from that to speaker, icon, author. I recently wrote a book. So I've got another transitioning kind of coming if I would expand this timeline. So I want you to know, and your takeaway from this video is that it's okay to transition industries. It's okay to fall out of passion of one thing as you grow, as your business grows, and kind of mold yourself into another passion, another industry, create another business, whatever it is. Everything that you do along the way, along this timeline, is going to just make you a better person, a better business owner. You're just going to become better at what it is that you end up doing next. You've got all this past experience to help you move forward with new experiences. And it's okay to do that. And it's okay to tell people that your passion has shifted, so your business is shifting. All right? So that's where I have hire help here. When I hired help, a huge breakthrough for me was I was solely working within these fascinations. The things that I love to do, the things that light me up, I was doing more of on a daily basis. So I was a happier person for myself, for my husband, for my daughter, for my extended family, for my friends. I was just happier to be around when I'm working day in and day out, only in my fascinations column, right? So if you were to write a column of fascinations and list everything that you love doing in your business and your personal life and work to achieve as much of that each day, day in and day out as you can, then you're golden. I don't think anybody's ever going to achieve that perfect balance, but I think that's important to just understand that we always want to be working within those fascinations. So that's why I have a question mark here. At the very end, there's a big question mark because I don't think we ever achieve perfection. I don't think any one of us will ever be perfect. So that's why this is so important to understand that we need to have these boundaries in place in our business so that we can experience the breakthroughs and be successful and continue to work towards whatever that end goal is. So the three columns that I want you, the three takeaways that I want you to get out of this training today is business, boundaries, and breakthroughs. And under the business columns, we need to think about our business dynamics. Under the boundaries column, we need to think about mindset readjustments. So we need to set boundaries. The breakthroughs column gives you those mindset readjustments. So with every single breakthrough that you experience in your business, you're adjusting your mindset. You're coming to that realization of why you just had that breakthrough. What just happened? What did I do right that I need to continue doing in my business? Because that's a breakthrough. And then boundaries need to be set for yourself. That's the big one. Most of us set boundaries for our clients, not for ourselves, but we need to remember to set boundaries for ourselves, for others, in order to not experience self-sabotage. So if we're trying to do all the things ourselves, we are going to get hung up on very, very minor details. I had a client who could not get past grammatical errors in a PDF. Like her sentence structure and grammar, and I get it if you are teaching a class on grammar and whatever, but she was just putting out a wellness PDF to her clients, and they didn't care about if the sentence structure was correct. They probably had no idea if the sentence structure was correct, but she was self-sabotaging herself and getting hung up and not putting out products or offers because she would be spending hours upon hours going through line item by line item on her document and then Googling and making sure the sentence structure was perfect. And I had to give her that breakthrough and set those boundaries for her and say, listen, you are not going to move forward in your business. You're going to remain stagnant. You're self-sabotaging yourself. So we had that conversation. So I want you to know that boundaries are a very big part of breakthroughs. So you got to set those boundaries in order to have those positive breakthroughs. When you have a breakthrough and you move on to the next level of business that comes, when you have a breakthrough and you move on to the next level of business, that comes with a lot of things that also need boundaries. So if you're working as a solopreneur right now and then you hire a team, There's got to be a lot more boundaries that need to be put in place in order for that team to run successfully. You need to maybe hire a project manager or hire a team manager, somebody to manage the team, or decide whether that's something you want to do. Is that in your fascinations column? So here are some examples. If you're making more income, you're going to be working with more people, likely, unless you have a passive program. So that will come with boundaries. You're also going to likely be working with more high ticket people and more experienced people. So in my opinion, if they're charging higher for their products or their services and they're more experienced in business, that might come along with a lot of head trash and mindset issues. So you need to be aware of that and set boundaries for you and your client relationship prior to that happening. You will get to know people in the business who are more successful and who are there to make things happen, and they don't really tolerate remaining stagnant or not taking action on business. So again, boundaries need to be put in place. The people that you will be associating yourself with as you grow and scale your business are people who usually have strong boundaries, or they're getting towards that area of having good boundaries in their business. And if you don't have those boundaries set up when you get to that level, sounds kind of harsh, but you're going to be eaten alive, right? Like things are just going to keep happening and happening and happening. And if you're a yes ma'am type person and you never say no, you're going to dig yourself a huge hole that you're not going to be able to get out of. So we need to make sure those boundaries are set in our business before we scale our business up to the next level. Your mindset will not be in the right place if you don't have correct boundaries, and it just ends up being a downward spiral that I don't want you to experience. And we all know it's an entrepreneurial roller coaster, right? So a downward spiral will happen at multiple points in your business growth, but you got to catch it quickly and come right back up that roller coaster ride, right? So if you notice that you are spiraling downward, just don't let yourself get all the way down here. Kind of catch yourself halfway through and rise back up. Boundaries are non-negotiable. Personal boundaries are non-negotiable. I'm probably going to say that a million times. Boundaries. Personal boundaries are non-negotiable. It's a non-negotiable part of your business if you want to grow. If you don't care about growing, then don't worry about it. You're probably just going to stay stagnant. But if you want to grow, put those personal boundaries, get them in place. A lot of people have issues with boundaries. And we typically don't have a problem telling our husband or telling our clients or telling our parents what we do or don't want them to do, but we all often have a problem telling ourselves what to do and actually abiding by the rules we set for ourselves. So that's my examples under boundaries. Again, breakthroughs. When you're going through breakthroughs in your business, you need to set boundaries for yourself, blah, blah, blah. I'm like repeating that a lot, but you need to be able to tell yourself to stop and move on so that you're not always spinning in circles. So if you're setting boundaries for yourself and maybe you've got that boundary up on a whiteboard in your office, as soon as you see yourself kind of like veering towards that thing that you don't want to be doing, you can stop and then continue and move on so you're not always spinning in circles. Every single boundary, every single breakthrough, every aha moment in my business has always led to more success. So this is not a negative thing. This is only helping you get past that stopping point and grow your business and make more money. That's really it. Also, I want you to know that no one has the perfect, sturdy, strong boundaries in their business. It's hard on all of us, no matter what society or social media portrays. We're all struggling behind the scenes, and I have boundaries, but when you come to me and you want to talk about your mindset issues or you want to talk about the problems that you're experiencing in your business, I will not put up a hard boundary in that I won't talk to you. I will. I love conversation. I love communication, and I will share with you my exact story if it's going to help you move your business or your personal life forward. I am an open book, so you can always reach out to me from that respect. It is an important topic to talk about. I think a lot of people struggle with boundaries in business, but not a lot of people talk about it. So it's important to have that outlet, at least one person, whether it's a therapist or your husband or a friend who you can go to when you have something like this on your mind to talk about. And that's it. I hope that this was helpful. Again, just really breaking down boundaries and breakthroughs in business as it relates to your business. It's super, super important. The other day, and sorry, I'm kind of sick if I sound nasally. The other day I had a day where everything was aligned for me. Like one thing after another, I was feeling this like overwhelming sense of happiness and joy. And so I sat back and I was like, what just happened today? Like step by step, I wrote down on my whiteboard exactly what happened, because I was like, I'm feeling so happy. Like, this doesn't happen every day. Why am I so happy? And so I just wrote down every single element of that day and the things that I did, whether it was going to the gym or taking my dog on a walk or getting on the phone. I think I got on the phone with maybe 4 people that day, and I don't typically talk to that many people on the phone. But that conversation, that audio, that open verbal conversation with a live person on the other end of the phone actually made me really happy. So it's something that I want to keep in mind and write on my whiteboard, so that when I'm making personal or business decisions moving forward, I say yes to the ones that have me on the phone with people. Or the one conversation I had, I was actually outside walking my dog while I was talking to her. So like being that specific is also helpful. Like if you're making a business decision and it means you're going to get on the phone with somebody at a recurring time every single week, once a week, are you able to walk your dog during that time and like kill 2 birds with 1 stone and still have an awesome conversation? Like that would be something I would say yes to. That's not something I would say no to in my business. So keeping those things in mind are also very important.